Okay, so I'm working on the trees that go into this little watercolor that I'm doing. And just putting in the trunks of a few little trees. And did the sky, because we've covered skies before. And they're pretty easy. Landscaping's got some bright spots in it from where the sun hits, and then there's shadows, and I'm putting in the foundation for the rest of the trees in the picture. And it might not be exactly, it's just a little indication of what goes where. Gotta make that distance in there, so it's easier to just put these two guys, and there's one that's got a little bit of a fat trunk. Comes down into this light area, and this will be lightened up some more. The sun's shining through there. Little twigs down. So as you can see, I'm just putting the indication of the trunks in this. This is my landscaping. This is the water. And I've got my sky up here. And of course the leaves of the trees are going to fall up into the sky. So I let my sky and my base for landscaping dry so that I could go ahead and put in like the shadows and things like that. So in order to do that, you want to darken it wherever there would be a shadow from the trees, branches, and leaves above. So you're going to make this kind of watered down, just a dark brown. And I'm trying to make it fall kind of like in line with where the trunks are, and the light is coming from the left. So your shadows are going to be falling towards the right. So we're going to put those different little shadows of these trees that are there. And some of them are in a area where the ground is kind of not even. It's kind of hilly. And you want to be able to kind of show that. And I'm not putting any more paint in the brush because some of these shadows are going to be lighter than others. And then when I want to come closer to the foreground, then obviously I'm going to put some more of that same brown, dirt color, whatever you want to call it, in there. Show that that's where the trees are coming out of. And to get the color of the landscaping that goes down, that's part of the shadow but it's not super dark, is just to add that little bit of brown to it and have it come down that hill just like this. And this one's got kind of a, when I've got too much down there, just to water it down, I just add some more water to it and pull it across so it can come back up into here. And I'm doing this in little sections because I want it to dry for the next, step of what I plan on doing, which is to get the parts of the trunk in, to do the leaves and that sort of thing. So we've got, this kind of like shows where the incline of the bank. Just added a little bit of brown to it, changed color, but so that you can also still see the shadows from the other trees that are already there. And just want like a distinct line that gives you that separation of one plateau to the other. And it's no problem if you put too much down. You can always take a paper towel and sop it up, get it off of there. And this is not, going to be completely exact from the picture that I'm working from, but it's, it's a perception of it. Now, since a couple of these thicker trunks are lighter on one side, I'm going to put in the shade side, darker on those, with some more of this brown, this dark brown, let's see, raw umber. So it just makes it easier to lighten it up on one side in that manner. So you want it dark on the side that's away from the sun. And I'm just going to take a little bit of water, and I have some watered down, very light yellow and white, and I'm going to put it on the front side and let it bleed into that brown. So that gives an illusion of bark from a distance. And just do that here. You might not really be able to see it so much, but that's okay because the main part of the picture is the leaves. So now you can kind of see the shadows. This you can kind of see, if you were to be able to look at this up close, you'd be able to see the highlighting on that tree trunk there. So now I'm going to continue up with the main part of the tree trunks on these. It's not going to be as dark of a brown, although it might initially come out that way. I'm going to add some of this yellow ochre to it so it's not as dark, because all the light in this picture is coming from this direction, so anything up here is going to be lighter anyway. So let's see, we've got these two guys here, and one of those comes way up. See how straight I can make it? Haha, that's the tricky part. But then again, trees aren't always, perfectly straight. So this is a very pointy liner brush that I'm using to make the rising tree trunks. Now I haven't done basically traditional painting of art like this in a while, because I like to do the quick stuff, the more modern technique. I don't know why, but I do. But then every so often I'll fall back into the traditional, and that's basically what this is. It's more of the traditional. And I've got a tree back here that actually has a little skinny bit of a split trunk. Like that. I'm changing the shape of it a little bit. And then I've got this guy over here that comes up, and you see the trunk here for a little bit. And then you don't see it for a while. And it kind of bends this way. Bends over. Just cool. And using the very, very the pointy tip of it. You just kind of let that flow off. That. And up here, this one forks off. And has one that comes out here. Doesn't have to be exact. It's just kind of fun to stick them in there. And then over here, there's the top of another tree that you can kind of see it. And the key to this is when you put the leaves in, to still let some of this or a lot of this still show. So that's the tricky part. And so you don't have to worry about it connecting to the bottom. You just got to make sure the leaves come up in there. So there's a couple little twiggy looking trunks down here in the bottom. So I just kind of indicate that those are there. And let's see, this one really doesn't show any more of the upper part. And then you have one that comes right up into here. And it's super, super thin. So we're just going to let it kind of show. And then on this one, with this little red bush, we're just going to put a branch that kind of comes out this way. So the rest of it's going to be all layers of different shading. And so, take a little bit more of this lighter brown. And it's kind of going to come in around, it's almost a yellow, actually. It is almost a yellow color. Around the base of these trees down here. And granted, this is a little bit darker than the actual picture, but I'd like a little bit more color to it. Otherwise, what it is, it's overexposed actually in the photograph. So you can try, since it's dry, you can try to lighten it up just by adding a little bit of white to it. Let it blend in. Kind of highlights it a little. And I just use a little small like dot of this color in here. And it's almost like it's see-through, like transparent. But what it actually does is it actually lightens up where it's going. And there's this little, I don't know what that little white spot is under there, but I'm just kind of like following along with it. These little light spots where the sun hits in there on the dried grasses. It's a fall scene. So, and then this, as this little bit comes down. Now I haven't done traditional tight pieces like this in a while, so we're just going to hold our breath on the leaves and hopefully they'll come out the way they're supposed to, because they can be tricky when you go from your modern kind of method and you go back to the old way of doing things. And when I was in school, we did a lot of watercolor pieces, and then of course if you get away from it after a while, it's like, uh-oh, I forgot how to do that. And this one's got this funny little shadow right at the base of it, so just stick it in there because it's in there. And then down here you've got this little bank, so to speak, and there's this separation of what looks to be some grass that does not want to give up the ghost and die off for the winter time. It's still hanging on, and I'm just going to give it a little bit more green, sap green. And I don't like doing long videos, so let's just see how far I get with this one. And that is where that water just kind of like comes up to it, and that'll be part of a reflection in there. So that works. And then the sandy part, this part here, just kind of comes over top. And I'm putting a yellow undertone, but then I'm going to put white on top of it. And we'll lighten it up. The difference between watercolor and acrylic is this takes a little more time because you have to let it dry, put the white on it, and go from there. So I'm letting you know that in advance. That's why we're going to go so far with this. I'll show you how to do the leaves on the trees, and then we will come back to it later on. That color in there. And I got a little bit of this green kind of like splotching through here. I mean, it's literally like dots. So I'm just going to spread this out just a little bit. And then come across. So like I said, it's not exactly, but it just kind of like gives you that feel of the different dips in the landscaping. I'm making up my own landscape dip. So it's not exactly like the picture that I'm working from, but it's good to have different landscape photos to practice from, and then just change it. You know, make it your own. You know, you just make it your own. And this has like two little ridges of this green. I don't want to dye grass stuff. So I'm putting in the second one just above the brown. Just like that. And I think it's on the other side. There is a little bit. Not a lot, but there is a little. So it kind of falls in there. I'll light it up because it is a little bit lighter in that watery part. Okay. Because see, down here, this watery section, now this is a watercolor that I had in here that had dried. So it actually works out good. So I do it to reinvigorate it is just add water back to it. And have that come there. So I'm trying to get it almost sandy colored in a way. So this will have to dry, and I can do one more, probably a white layer on top of it to really get it to pop up even lighter to meet the water's edge down there. Now, the leaves. This is the fun part. So I need to grab some, let's see, we'll start with the red one over here, this reddish orange thing. And I'm not exactly sure if this is the brush I want to use, but I'm going to start with it. So the leaves are going to be darker towards the back. It comes up this far, so I'm going to put a little dot there. And then I've got this little area here. And I think that red-orange is a little bit too bright, so I need to dull it down with some brick red color. So I'm going to put that in there. That's not even brick red, that's like a violet red. So this is where we get to play. You can mix them up on your palette if you want. I kind of get, I know it's not gun shy, but I just don't typically do that. And I'm just putting dots, literally blotches of dots. And there's a little cluster here, another cluster here. I'm trying to go along with you know, with pictures so that I can have them fit in here the way they should. And then I get down a little further, and it looks like a. Let's see what this one is. Did I use this one? I don't know if I used this one yet. Because there's a real dark spot in here somewhere. And that's that really dark, kind of reddish. Sometimes what you end up doing, you have to mix your brown with your red to get the right shade of red. And that's basically what I'm having to do. I'm having to mix in and kind of outline where I want this to fall in regards to the base of it. And then there's this little weeping willow kind of thing going on here. So you can do little, you know, kind of sketch it in if you want. But then you see those little gray marks, and I don't particularly like those. So I'll just do like this. Now, since I'm not really liking what this brush is doing, I'm going to wash it out. And then go to this little square tip brush and see what I can do with that with my colors. I'm going to get it wet. and get some of the water off of it, and then go back into this orangey red color. Because I can always tone it down. And I'm going to tap it like this. That actually works better. Now that I look at it. You know, doing the tip of it and not adding any more paint. And just putting it in there. Now there's another little trick you can do that I haven't done in a while. But you get a natural sea sponge. And this one actually has kind of a tree shape to it. So I'm going to do an experiment over on this side with the green. I mean, actually this would work fine. Just, you know, put some yellow highlights on the edges of it and add the next tree. But I'm going to take some clean water on this sponge, get it wet, because they dry out pretty readily. And then I'm going to do is take a paintbrush and take, let's see, what color do I want to use? This color green. And I'm going to put it on my palette by itself. Which one is it? This one. Water it way down. But this way I have, let me show you what I've got. I've actually got some little, like a puddle of green water. See it? See it right there? Okay, and then I'm going to try this because I haven't done this in a long time. I'm going to clean my brush off on the sponge, okay? And it's almost tree shaped, which makes it work really well. And I'm going to dab it in that paint, okay? I'm going to take it and I'm just going to press it on the paper to where I want to put a tree. And push it down. Well, I don't have enough pigment on here. So when that doesn't work, then I will wet the brush, go into the color green I want to use, and paint it directly on the sponge while it's still wet. And you got to do this kind of lickety split. And then put it in that same spot. Okay? So now I've got this, which could be like the background, the green, and I can even do it, use the fat side of it, the rounder side of it, for back of this tree, and throw some in here where it needs some. So you can see how you can actually do sponge trees. So I'm kind of playing with that a little bit. Now this one here with the real spindly top part, it doesn't have a whole lot of trees on it, so that's going to be a brush thing. So I'm just using the sponge here to kind of play with some of the possibilities with using that. And I could put more than one color green on here if I wanted to, just to save some time and get a couple extra trees in there. So you want to make sure that you can get it really wet on your brush and you're putting it right on the sponge where you want it. And you can put a light tree in front of a dark tree by putting a darker green above, you know, and even a little bit of the dark green at the bottom. Now if I was using tube watercolor, it'd be easier, but I'm not using tube watercolor right now. So we're going to do it right here, and then down here, and just gonna pop it in there. Now since there's not much on here, it can go pretty much anywhere, or like a backdrop, and you can do it this way. Some people actually like to do it this way, where you don't add any to it. Whatever you've got on there goes on your picture, okay? Remember, this is Impressionism, and so it doesn't have to be real distinct, but you want something for your backdrop that it's going on to, okay? So, and then to clean it, you just put it in the water and clean it off. Now this is going to be my background color for my trees. I'm going to have yellow in here, orange, and a real light lime green, but I need for that to dry, so that's the next step on that. Now below, if I wanted to work on my water, since I've got green in the brush, and this is a reflection of what's above, so we'll just put some, you make a, it's called a wash, and that wash is going to come up and meet the ground above. and it's really, really wet brush. You can wet the paper first. I prefer to do this way on dry paper because then I have more control of where that color is and how much of it I put in there. So some of this is going to have the blue and the white still in it. And then there's going to be some green over here, with darker green. Over here, that's kind of a yellowish green. It's going to be a reflection of what's above. And I'm going to take that dark, dark green and put more of it here. Like that. There's going to be yellow green there. There's some dark green here. I'm going to have. And really dark green. There's going to be kind of like a hint of it coming up through here. And then to make this more the wash look, so it looks more like water, you take your brush and you water it out and you go across. Just go across it. Let it wash down into it. The parts that you want to retain that little bit of white in there, just don't put your brush there. The other side, just go across and pull it. Now in acrylics you pull down from above, but this one you go across with this kind of technique. Okay. So here we've already got some water reflection going on. We don't have the leaves up there, but you can see where the leaves and the trees are going to be. So this dries, and then we'll have another part, a part 2 on this of actually doing the leaves on the trees. So practice, practice, practice. That's what I do. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done watercolor in a while, but this is going to be a cute little fall scene with the reflections in the water.